But I'm just saying, we don't fall for the shenanigans. And I know you worked in all these different departments and you worked hard. But see, for you, it'd be a different way than it'd be for me. And that's just being real.
This isn't the end of the conversation. This is the start of the conversation.
And I want to be out here.
I want to back up what she said about trying to get your kids to Reading on the public bus. And I'd like to know where you were born. We moved here 40 years ago, and there was busing. Remember the busing? So I got involved driving parents and kids when the school was shut down here. So I had to drive parents who ended up at Spring Valley or Reading back here when the school, it was open with busing. I know the guy in charge of the busing department because I had to call him every morning. And when it was closed down, there was no explanation of why they closed the school.
Closed the school down to lack of attendance because I said they forced the black people. So they forced the black people here on the island. So it was more or less if you that's I can't put it in a nice way. If you was incarcerated and then little Billy, your father came home, well, you don't have to go to school today. You know, that type of thing. But basically it was closed down, lack of attendance and behavior issues.
So the issue with the black people and the busing, because it was a consent decree from 94124, Bayview Hunters Point.
Yes.
So we managed to move into Western Addition and learn the history of Justin Herman redevelopment, the whole FILLMORE thing. This was still during busing and who had the certificates, and they never used the certificates. So I want to suggest the lack of planning. When people didn't care what was happening in Treasure Island, we also came out to work with the Upward Bound because they put the kids in that building. And I remember when we tried to get the Upward Bound kids into school because they had F's and D's, sometimes not even C grades. So in those days, they didn't want to live here. They is white middle class and up. Same thing for Western Addition. I want to suggest to Matt here that he put heads together with Dean Preston in 5 because it's the same history, also connected to World War II, which I know the history of Treasure Island wouldn't be here without the Pan Am Clipper because that boardway is still at Clipper Cove. So what happened when Willie Brown had his girlfriend in Nimitz's house, and I admired Nimitz because he did not like the politics of the military, and he did not want to be buried in Arlington, so he's out here in San Bruno. But the point was people got away with all kinds of stuff out here. But there were positive things like the Alzheimer's Walk was out here. Now that the real estate is an issue here, it's the same thing in Western Addition, which is free land, eminent domain. Now, you can't call it community land trust, but the HUD director came out and she went to Oakland Fruitvale. And I knew the Spanish-speaking Unity Council when it took them 8 years to make that Fruitvale station. So, unfortunately, people think of Oscar Grant, but that was community development. We have the potential to do that between Western Addition and Treasure Island, but you guys should be given the choice, because you do have the history, that whatever happens out here, there is room. There are mucho empty apartments in the Western Addition co-ops, including Freedom West, which is almost 4 full blocks, closest to City Hall and the Veterans Building and the Symphony. And the private developers, Reverend Arnold Townsend, he says they're like dogs in heat. They can just see the free land, and they've been after it for decades now.